Glossophobia is the fear of public speaking affecting 3 out of 4 people. I happen to be one of those people. In fact, when I was in high school, if there was a presentation to be done, I would opt for a 0 so I could get out of doing a presentation. I absolutely despise public speaking, and it's a very difficult thing to get over. But with the tips that I'm going to give you today, I'm going to teach you how to get over it. During this 10-minute presentation, you will learn basic presentation skills, how to reduce distractions, engage the audience, and learn some basic PowerPoint design skills so that your audience can follow along effectively. The outline for today's presentation: again, you'll learn the basics, how to prepare for a presentation, prepare yourself, the room, your PowerPoint audio-visual information, and avoid distractions, connect and engage with the audience, some slide design tips, how to conclude your presentation, and offer a question period at the end. The basics. Introduce yourself. My name is Amanda Demkes, and today we'll be talking about glossophobia and presentation skills. Come prepared for your presentation. Give an overview of the presentation, which I just did in the previous slide. Make the information stick for your audience. Tell them what you're going to tell them, which I did in the previous slide. Tell them, and then again, tell them what you told them in your conclusion. Start on time and end on time. Keep your promise with that. People need to know when they're going to be taking a break, when they're going to be relieved from the presentation, so they can plan their day. It's distracting for them to wonder what's next. Give all of the information up front. Preparing your presentation. It's important to do your research. Prepare the information in a chronological order. Be sure to rehearse. Test your AV equipment, test your lighting, rehearse in front of a mirror, have somebody record you so you can see if you have any distracting habits. Bring alternative AV materials. If I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation in front of individuals, if my AV equipment doesn't work, I'll always have overhead slides. They're expensive, but it can really help in a jam. Prepare the room. Make sure that every single person in your audience can see you. Make sure that they can hear you. Make sure they can see the overhead projector. Distractions. Any type of distractions are what I consider noise. It can be visual noise, which I'll get into later. It can be audio noise, and it can be environmental noise. Noise can be things saying ums and ahs in your sentences. It's a distraction. Be aware of any fidgeting habits. Again, you can reduce those fidgeting habits by having somebody record and you look back on your presentation. Avoid distracting audio-visual effects. Be aware of your wardrobe and appearance. I remember one time a lady was giving a presentation in one of my university classes, and one of the buttons on her shirt was open. I don't think I remembered a single thing that she was talking about. All I could see was her bra. And I was thinking, should I tell her? Should I give her a signal? What should I do? So again, that's noise. It's environmental noise. It's so loud that I couldn't hear her presentation. Be aware of a distracting environment, like people coming in and out of the room, or outside noise, or maybe it's even pictures on the wall that people are distracted by. Reduce interruptions. On my door here, I have an occupied sign, and so that people aren't entering in the middle of my presentation. Make use of your stage. In this particular room, I don't have a lot of room to move around, but if I had a larger stage, I would walk back and forth so that everybody remains engaged with me. And make eye contact with them, but don't make it awkward. Don't stare at people, don't overcompensate. Just glance around the room, make sure you're engaging every single person in your audience. And maintain an open body language like I have right now. My arms aren't crossed. And participate with the audience. For example, I could ask this audience, does anybody here have a fear of public speaking? If you do, put up your hand. That'll keep the audience engaged with you. And use anecdotes. Face the audience and speak to them, engage them in your speech. Don't talk to the screen like this and use your slides as a reference. Nobody wants to see the back of your head. Remove barriers between you and your audience. Don't stand behind a podium, stand in front of your podium. That way the audience feels like you're actually speaking to them and you're sort of on the same level as them. You don't want to be standing and talking to them, you want to be with them. Let's talk about body language. What do you do with your extremities? That awkward feeling when people are getting a picture taken or standing in front of a large crowd or even a small crowd. What do I do with my legs and my feet? Well, keep an even weight distribution. Don't stand like this. Keep your feet shoulder width apart. That'll give you a nice sturdy foundation. You'll feel secure and it's not distracting to your audience. What do you do with your arms? Keep them in front of you. Don't put them in your pockets. That's distracting. People tend to put their hands in their pockets, play with their keys or change, and again, that's visual noise and it's audio noise. Use expressive gestures, but don't overdo it. Remember, keep open body language. Let's talk about voice. Change the tone and the rhythm in your speech. Insert natural pauses. Don't be afraid of silence. If you need to think of your next don't be afraid of silence. People will just be happy that they're not up here and that you are. Speak clearly and speak at a moderate speed. If you speak too fast, people aren't going to get the idea of what you're speaking about. If you speak too slowly, they'll just get bored. And project your voice so everybody in the room can hear you. Let's move on to slide design. It's important in a presentation to ensure that people can comprehend your message. Elements of good slide design will have point form information. It will not have more than 5 points per slide. Use only keywords. Use effective spacing. Have white space on your slide. And minimal graphics. That's a great slide. This is a bad slide design. The information is too much on one slide and your audience will not be able to understand it. Let's talk about font. Don't use a sans serif, use a sans serif font, not a serif font. Serif fonts are too difficult to read on an overhead. Use a slightly different font from the body. Font should be at least 18 points. This is, I consider, slide noise. Don't use distracting animation or fonts that are hard to read. Don't go overboard with the animation and use consistent background on every slide. Use contrasting color for your text. And don't use too many colors, as this is not considered art. Concluding your presentation, use an effective and strong closing in your presentation. Review what participants have learned, leave time for questions, and thank them for participating and attending. And refer to any resources or materials that you've spoken about in your presentation. Conclusion, you now know how to prepare yourself and your information for your presentation. Identify and remove any noise. Connect and engage the audience. And deliver a clear audio-visual message. And then conclude your presentation. Goodbye to glossophobia. Does anybody have any questions?